Well, today, if you remember from a few weeks ago, Michael came to this rubber plantation, and a quarter of the way through the vlog, the phone rang and the video stopped, and what I thought was carrying on wasn't, and so I wasted about 20-25 minutes yapping on about now because it never recorded. So I've come back to finish this story off, and I was about to mention that about 15 years ago, on a holiday to Thailand, in Bangkok, in a bookstore, I bought 2 books to occupy myself for coming up to the village and that, and just relaxing. So what did you buy, Michael? Well, the first book I bought was called The War of the Running Dogs. And what's all that about? Well, it was about the Chinese guerrilla communists in the jungles of Malaya, as it was then called, and the struggle the British had of getting these communists out. And eventually, after quite a few years of lots of murders, British subjects who were out there running these places, rubber plantations, and attacked and all murdered in the beds and that. Then the British thought of 1 or 2 tactics to get rid of them, and eventually they used the Chinese people living in Malaya themselves to get rid of them. Offered them money, plantations and that, to get rid of them. And it succeeded. And so that was the end of the communist, Chinese communist Malaya. Then, what was the second book you bought? Well, the second book, strangely enough, years ago after I'd bought it and read it, I managed to meet the man himself, believe it or not, on a petrol forecourt in his hometown of Berwick-upon-Tweed. Well, pray tell us, Michael, what was the book and who was the man? Well, the book was The Railway Man, which later became a film. And the 2 main parties was Colin Firth as the man himself, and the Australian Nicole Kidman, who played his wife. And put it this way, after reading the book, the film just didn't do it justice. What's in the book and what's told in the film is just a partial episode in what this man endured through torture by the Japanese at the bridge over the River Kwai. And later on, I went on, as I've just previously mentioned, I was delivering petrol in one of my past occupations of petrol tanker driver, and delivering to Berwick-on-Tweed, to this forecourt. I noticed an old man sat in the passenger seat of this car, and then I saw his wife filling their vehicle up with petrol. And At a closer look, I thought, that's Eric Lomax's wife. And that fella sat in the passenger seat is Eric Lomax himself. So I interrupted my delivery and I walked over to this car on the forecourt and I said, excuse me, are you Mrs. Lomax? She said, yes, I am. I says, well, is that Eric sat in the passenger seat? She says, yes, it's him himself. And I said, could I possibly have a word with him? She said, yes, certainly. Eric, this gentleman wants to have a word with you. And so he said, oh, hello. I said, hello, Eric. I said, listen, I bought your book out in the part of the country where these horrific stories you tell was told. And I said, I'm quite in awe. It was quite an emotional experience, to tell you the truth, to see this frail old man sat in the passenger seat and having read all what the poor chap had endured. Unbelievable. Well, he did say to me at the time, oh, there's plans of a film coming out. I said, oh, really? Well, I said, I honestly look forward in seeing that. He said, yes, it's in the pipeline. This must have been about 2005, 2006. And I'm sure it was about 2011 this film came out. So it was a few years after he mentioned it, but he did say there was talk of one. And I was very pleased it materialised. But what I will tell you, it just ain't. I'm repeating myself here. It just ain't what it ain't like the book. The book, well, honestly, buy it, read it. Probably a lot of you have, and probably a lot of you have seen the film. But that's just a little tale I wanted to tell, which unfortunately never got recorded last time. I put one or two pictures on here of Eric and the interpreter, Japanese interpreter, that he finally met years and years later. The man who was present at the torture of himself. After his ordeal up by the bridge over the River Kwai, up that area, he did go down to Changi prison in Singapore, where once again the horrific episodes restarted. But his fight to keep sanity and keep himself alive, commendable. But anyway, later on, possibly towards Remembrance Day, what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you about my Uncle Harry, which years ago I put down on the BBC World War II stories under the title My Uncle Harry. And there I explain the bravery, the acts of bravery that my Uncle Harry Barker, had to endure. Not only did he do the North African campaign with Rommel, chasing Rommel, and he eventually went over to Italy and he chased the Germans up through Italy until by the time they got to the top of Italy, then the Second World War as the German occupation ceased, because they then surrendered. And thinking, our Harry thinking he was heading home, he didn't. They shipped him to Burma. And there he went in, and eventually down to Singapore, and liberated the men down there. I've ever thinking maybe, well, Eric Lomax and my Uncle Harry could have met. Would have been nice to think so. But anyway, there's the end of my little story. And before we finish, if you remember the last time we came down here, yes, there wasn't as many leaves scattered on the floor here. But look now, new leaves, like our big tree on the Ponderosa, have sprouted. So, not a long time between the shed the leaves and the regrowth. Now, looking down at the rubber, tacky. And a lot of these little balls full, so ready for collection, which will be at some stage. But obviously the trees are awaking now, but I think the sap's now dried up. And over here, see, typical Thailand litter everywhere. Bottles of whatever. I would think it's some sort of additive. They do put an additive, like an acid, in with this stuff. So now here we have a cellar where they usually rest in. Now what that is, God knows. But anyway, obviously this hasn't been used for a long time. Look at the bloody floor on it. Few chickens about. Michael's adorned his wellies today, just in case. Now, if anyone's interested, on YouTube there is a vlog out about these rubber plantations in Thailand, and how majority of Thais don't work them. They bring in, as they're called, farangs. No, not Western farangs. Farangs, foreigners from places like Cambodia and Burma, Myanmar, to come and do the bloody the graft, and obviously at a cheaper rate. They're very good, like lots of other places of getting people to work for now. Where the world, isn't it? You know, cheap labour. I remember in the musical days doing one or two boats, like cross-channel ferry boats and that, and doing the entertainment. And nearly all of the employed crew, if it wasn't Dutch running it, then could have been English, but certainly all the workforce, majority were Filipinos. And then like engine crew and that could be Spanish. I work with quite a few Spanish lads who work down in the engine room in engineering and that. But anyway, there we go. That's my little vlog for this week. So, Buttercup. Very tranquil down through here. So here's the sturdy steed. We'll get away back home and get some lunch. Beginning to warm up nowadays. So catch you in a bit. Bye for now.